Brilliant. Welcome to this recording of Springboard Timekeeping webinar. We've got Sharon delivering for us today, which is absolutely brilliant. Thank you very much. Nice to have you, Sharon. As usual, I'm just going to read out a brief statement about this recording for those listening in the future and for all of our legal reasons. So today's webinar is being recorded. Please could everybody ensure their video is switched off and they only use first names when addressing others in order to ensure there's no identification of individuals after the session. We record webinars for three reasons. Firstly, for internal training purposes, so we can get better at delivering webinars and spot mistakes. Secondly, to provide to our funders as part of our commitments to them. And thirdly, so that trainees like yourselves can watch these sessions back in the future in order to support their career development where they have been unable to attend the live sessions. We store these videos on our secure internal Teams platform and as private YouTube videos which cannot be accessed without our permission. We will store these videos for a maximum of 5 years. You have the right to choose to leave the session at any stage if you do not wish to be recorded. If you do choose to leave, we will attempt to hold another unrecorded webinar to accommodate you. If you have spoken during the session and you wish that part of the recording to be deleted, we will do so. Neither Microsoft Teams nor Springboard store any information about you, including your IP address, and for any further information or for a transcript of what I have just said, please visit the news article Understanding Webinars on your Flow Platforms news section. Done.
You have so got that down.
I do think I've read that out close on 100 times now, but yeah.
You go sleep
Rock
dreaming
on.
of it. Brilliant.
I see it in my dreams. Right, I'm gonna go off camera and Sharon, over to you, boss. Give us a little heads up on what we're going to be doing today.
Okay, fantastic, guys. So today we are going to cover timekeeping, but it's going to be timekeeping probably not as you're expecting. So before we kind of kick off, has anybody got any thoughts when we talk about timekeeping, what you would expect to be being covered on today's webinar? So if you've got any thoughts, if you want to just put it into the chat, and yeah, Ted, if you want to shout out and just see if anybody is expecting what we're going to do.
So we've got Sophie in the chat saying being punctual, completing tasks on time.
Okay. Brilliant. Yeah.
I would add to that, yeah, turning up on time, as there's no such thing.
You're either late or you're early. Is that
Yep.
not it, Ted?
We've got Gina saying time management.
Okay. Brilliant.
And
yeah.
as yet, we don't have any others, but if we get any more, oh, there we go. We've got Ben saying multitasking, getting all jobs done promptly, and I'll keep shouting them out as they come in, Chief.
Fantastic. Yeah. So timekeeping covers a wide range of things. So it is that being punctual, making sure that you actually, turn up on time, as you say, or as Ted says, you're either late or early. But what we're going to be covering today is around more of that kind of multitasking and time management side of things. So by the end of today's workshop, you should be able to give some examples of what would be seen as important, less important and unimportant tasks. And you'll understand the reason why as we go through that. We've got a little bit of a video on that. You'll be able to use a technique to assist you with planning. So we're going to give you quite a different variety of techniques that you can use. And it's kind of then just kind of finding which one fits for you. There's no such thing as a one technique fits all. So first or second question now out to you guys. So if we think about prioritising, so we've got those important, less important and unimportant tasks. So if you think about prioritising, what does prioritising mean? What does it mean to you? If you want to just pop that in the chat, that'd be great.
I suppose it
doesn't have to be a dictionary definition.
Yeah, I was going to say in its simplest form, it's sort of choosing what you do first, isn't it?
Yep.
Although, do you always have a choice? Interesting.
Or do you always make the right choice?
Or do you always make the right choice? Yeah, I almost certainly don't, but that's okay. I'm not sure if prioritising is one of the things that I'm best at. I like to do everything at once.
You wouldn't put that into your CV then as one of your skills?
I probably would, but it might not be true. No, I'm joking. Of course I wouldn't. So gang, in the chat, let's see what comes through. Nothing as yet. What do you guys think prioritising means to you? Dun, 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 dun.
Any thoughts other than Ted's definition?
Nothing coming through as yet, Captain.
No worries, we will move on. Everyone's very quiet through today. Okay, so prioritising, if we want a bit more of a definition, is determining the order for dealing with a series of items or tasks according to their importance. So that's where we would talk about those kind of low importance, high importance, that type of thing, really. So how do you think Go on.
It looks like everyone's answer has just come through all at once. It seems like perhaps my chat was slightly delayed, but we've got Gina saying putting tasks in order of importance. We've got David saying what tasks to do when and by order or by priority. We've got Kirsty saying make sure you get most important / time sensitive tasks done before the others. Chloe saying doing tasks in order of when they are due, and Louis saying organizing the importance of your tasks and when they should require your attention. Gina said hello because obviously I couldn't read the chat for some reason. Ben, whichever makes the most customers happy is the quickest. Varuni, put the tasks in order of must, should, and want. James, most important task, and Andrea, the first things to do. So they were absolutely not being quiet. We had loads of answers flowing in. My chat was just on a bit of a blip.
Brilliant. And all of the answers that were coming through are 100% spot on as well. So well done, guys. So when we think about prioritising, we've got kind of two different aspects of our lives, really. We've got our work life, so our job, and we've then got our private life. So how do we think prioritising can help us in these two separate areas? So if you think of in your job, first of all, how do you think that may be able to help you in work? So, and as you kind of put your things into the chat and hopefully it comes through. So I found out a really interesting task when I was kind of setting up this webinar and putting it all through, just because I like numbers. I'm a little bit of a geek. But there are 1,440 minutes in every single day. So how do you spend those 1,440 minutes? I know how I'd like to spend mine. Probably a lot of them more would be asleep, but that just doesn't happen. Yeah. So, but yeah, just an interesting fact for you there as you're putting your answers in.
I really like. I was busy writing that down, so I'm not actually looking at the answers that are coming in that I'm going to just now. Right. So Sophie's saying get tasks completed efficiently and on time. Ben saying keeping customers and managers in brackets happy. Kirsty's saying making sure both parts of our life get a decent amount of attention and one doesn't take over the other. And Sophie's saying getting stuff sorted for others on the team so they can continue their own work.
Yeah, brilliant. So when we're at work, 100% it's about us and others. So whether that be the rest of the team, whether that be our guests or customers. And it can come down to something very simple. If you're setting up a bar, which aspects are you going to set up of that bar first? If you run out of time and you don't manage to do X, is that going to have as much impact if you have done Y or not done Y on the guest experience as they come through? So in work, and it's like you say, you know, which tasks to complete first. There's ways that you can do that. You can look at previous week's trends to try and find out kind of, you know, whether it's be, right, what are people drinking when they first come in? So that needs to be the priority when we're setting up the bar. You know, if you're working in a kitchen, if you've got a rare steak on order and a lamb shank on order, which one are you going to start cooking first if it's for the same table, that type of thing. So yeah, definitely great answers. And then we look at our private life. So how can prioritising help us in our personal life as well as our work life, do we think, Anne?
So whilst the team are typing in some things about the private life, we've got some more on the job. Gina said getting things out of the way so that you can enjoy your time off. It's a really good point. And David's put the same point in by putting a healthy work-life balance. And now Ben's coming in for the private life and saying allowing us to relax properly. Louis, important for personal well-being. You guys are nailing it. Absolutely nailing it. Get housekeeping stuff out of the way. Ooh, interesting. I hate doing housekeeping. I think I spent too many years being paid to clean for me to really enjoy housekeeping. James is saying helps with mental health if we prioritize properly. And Chloe's saying making sure you get enough sleep. Yeah, very important. As we can tell, Sharon loves her sleep. Doesn't get much of it, loves it. Okay, so if we think it's all about keeping our efforts aligned with your purpose, and I think this probably is even more relevant to private life than work life, but it does come into both. So we all have a purpose and things that we want to achieve in life. It might be, the important thing for us might be family, it might be friends, but it's just making sure that whatever your purpose is, whatever your goal is, that's what things are aligned to. So there's a really great story that I love, and it's from a gentleman called, well, it's a phrase really, but there's a lot of meaning behind it. So there's a gentleman called Ben Hunt Davis, who was on the GB team for the Sydney Olympics.
The Great Britain team regularly came 7th. They were the rowing team, sorry, at the Olympics. They were normally 7th. They weren't anything, nobody really watched out for them. They were okay, but not really kind of pushing it that much. So there was something that Ben came up with, and it was kind of the British rowing team's philosophy throughout the whole of their training going into the Sydney Olympics, and this was in 2000. And the phrase was, will it make the boat go faster? So if it didn't make the boat go faster, they didn't spend any time on it, because that was their one and only purpose. So everything that they did was aligned with their purpose. Their priority was, did it make the boat go faster? All of their time was spent on that. And by using this philosophy and actually putting that into practice and having everything aligned with their purpose, they actually won gold at the Sydney Olympics. So they went from being a team that were kind of just being brushed off, they were there, but they weren't really competitive, to actually coming away with the gold. And I think that's, when you put that into life, is a really good kind of thing to go by, is, does it make the boat go faster? So obviously we're not trying to get a rowing boat, but is it going to have a positive effect on what I'm trying to achieve? Because if it's not, how much energy am I wasting? And it might be mental energy, it might be physical energy, but it's about making sure that everything is aligned to that purpose. Okay, and the next one I'm going to play you. Go on, sorry, Ted.
Sorry, I forgot I was off mute. I just said I like that.
Brilliant. Yeah, it is. It's one of those kind of things that really stuck with me the first time I heard it, and yeah, I thought it was great. So I'm going to play you a little bit of a video. Ted, if I can just check that the sound is on when I play this, because I've had a message come up saying that my audio is no longer being shared. So I might need to stop sharing the screen and reshare it and put my audio on, if that's okay.
Not a problem.
No.
Oops, you switch to the next slide. Here we go.
Do we have volume?
Yep.
Brilliant. Did that jump part way through there?
It did jump part way through, but it still got across the point.
Okay. Okay, brilliant. So that was a little bit of a short video. The original one on here was about 8 minutes long, and I thought we don't need 8 minutes because I'm sure that still gets through the same point. So yeah, sorry for jumping it there. But the concept of the jar of life is you have your important things in life, so your rocks, which were the big ones on there. You have the things that matter a little, which are the pebbles, and you have the things that don't really matter, which can be classed as the sand. That was the blue stuff that you saw in that video. So can anybody give me some examples of what would be classed as important things in life? So those rocks.
Spending time with family.
Yeah. So family is definitely one of those important things, as long as you like your family. Not everybody likes their family.
True, for sure. So the gang's saying work and school, health, sleeping and eating, exercise, good mental health.
Yeah, fantastic examples. So those are the things that we really need to make sure that we're focusing on. But don't always do. So as in that video, if you focus on the little things, you don't have time for those important things. So yeah, kind of examples I've got here, very much what you've said. So family, friends, love, wellness, and education would all come into important things. Fabulous, guys. Okay, so can we think of some things that matter a little bit? So those pebbles, the things that we want to get in, but they can fit around the rocks as well. Any thoughts on those?
Oh, it's slightly harder, that one, isn't it?
Got any thoughts coming in, guys?
So we've had a couple of people say socializing and socializing with friends, but I'm not sure if that was in response to the rocks or within response to the pebbles. Kirsty's saying small bits of DIY around the house could be a pebble.
Yeah.
Jamie's saying events that make you happy, like concerts, so sort of extra social things.
Bit harder, this one, isn't it?
Sandra's saying gardening. Ben's saying laundry. Louis saying luxury treats like concerts or holidays abroad.
Yeah, definitely. So some of the examples that I've got here, gang, and very much fall into what you said. So experiences, which would come into those kind of, you know, the concerts, the luxury treats, values, hobbies, and that could be anything from, you know, the gardening, the DIY, that type of thing. Spending time with people you don't really like that much. So they matter a little bit because they're people that might have importance, but they're not as important as kind of spending your time with friends and family. Because, you know, there's always those few people. It might be the family that you don't like potentially as well. And spending time with them. So, okay. Great job, guys. And then if we think about the sand, so those blue little bits that just fit in around everything else, so things that don't really matter, what would that sand be? Any thoughts on the sand?
Things that don't really matter.
Yeah.
Taking an afternoon nap.
That matters.
I thought you might say that. I think we've got the correct answers coming in the chat. So Ben saying TV, Martin saying video games, Louis saying excessive use of anything, Andrea's saying reading the newspaper. What do you reckon, boss? Are we hitting it on the spot?
Yeah, 100%. So couple of examples that I've got here, and obviously if you've got any more, throw them in there. So as you said, TV, sports results. So how many people spend time worrying about their fact that their team hasn't won, or, you know, if they draw, what's going to happen in that next game or match. So yeah, sports results, people spend a lot of time over. And worrying in general, I think, is a really good one. If we spend time worrying, we're then wasting that time, if you like, on things that we can change. So I have kind of a little bit of a theory or a thesis that I kind of put out. So you have things that you can change and you can alter, and those are things that you should spend your time doing and worrying about and trying to fix. And things that are outside of your control, that you don't have any impact and you can't have any impact or any influence over, you know, if you start spending your time worrying about them or becoming anxious, actually, you're not going to be able to change or influence what the outcome of that is. So you can then utilise your time and direct that to something very different that you can have an impact over and get a positive outcome.
I really like that, G. I think that's a great thesis.
Yeah, I've got a really nice picture that goes with it as well. So, have we had anything else come through?
Yeah, for things that were sand, we've got Facebook, and then Kirsty said thinking about how other people think of your life. So, you know, caring about other people's opinions, and I thought that she nailed it with putting that one up. James has asked an interesting question in the chat. Where should religion be placed? And I think Sophie's actually answered that, and that would depend how religious you are. Your religion might be, for some people, one of the rocks, and some people one of the pebbles, and some people the sand. So I think that one's quite personal. I don't think I care to define where that would land. How about you, Sharon?
I would totally agree with you on that. Yeah. So I think it's a very personal thing. It depends on, and, you know, like it's the same even when we think about family. Like we say, some people have family that they don't particularly, for whatever reason, want to spend time with, and that's okay. You know, if they don't fall into your rocks, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just what is important to you. And if religion's important to you, it's definitely a rock. If it's something that can come or go, then it's probably a pebble. If it's something that actually you don't really spend any time on, then yeah, I'd say it's sand.
Perfect. Cool. So always on an individual basis. I like that.
Yeah. And I think all of this is no matter which way you look at it. So, okay, cool. So as we saw on the video, if we fill our life with the sand, it leaves kind of squished room for the pebbles and very little room for the rocks, which means that we're missing out on all of those important things. Whereas if we reverse it, we tend to be able to fit everything in. The rocks tend to be the bigger things and the things that are probably more chunkier and require more of our time or more of our effort and energy. But it's a lot easier to fit things around that rather than trying to fit those things in any other way. So, okay, gang, are we all kind of happy with the jar of life, understand the meaning behind it and how we can put that into practice in our own lives by just thinking and changing things a little bit?
I like the jar of life. I think that's quite sensible. Would you say that work is a rock or a pebble or sand?
For me, it's a rock because I do a job that I really do love, and I feel that it's something that has importance and adds value to other people. So my current job, I would definitely say, is a rock. Previous jobs have probably been more like pebbles, and they've just been a means to an end rather than something that is really important to me. So that's why I don't get very many afternoon naps.
I was thinking something similar. Yeah, this job's certainly a rock, that's for sure.
Yeah. So, okay, brilliant, guys. So we're going to move on to some of those prioritizing tips. So some things that we can think about of how we can sort our tasks. So sort the tasks. So there's a few of them and we'll just kind of run through, and if you've got any kind of shout outs or thought processes or any questions on it, then pop them into the chat and Ted will kind of stop me as I run through, but I will throw a few things in there as well. I'm very much going on quite a lot of philosophical things today, so yeah, I'll keep putting them in randomly. So sort today's tasks by musts, shoulds and wants, so by rocks, pebbles and sand. So it's a really easy way of determining what you need to achieve first. Once you've accomplished your musts, as we said, you can then have time left to move on to your shoulds and your wants. Write the 3 most important tasks of the day on separate post-it notes is another tip. This will help to remind yourself if ever you get sidetracked. So you'll probably find, especially when you're thinking of kind of a work scenario, that those musts, those rocks, are the things that you, if you had a choice, would put off, because they're either chunkier tasks, the bigger tasks, or they're the tasks that you feel that you don't necessarily enjoy doing quite so much. So if I think of me, I love being in delivery and having kind of, being able to support people through. Do I like all the admin side of it and putting everybody onto kind of our different platforms? No, I'm not a sit at a computer kind of gal. But I know I have to get that done, otherwise it just builds up and builds up. So another saying that's out there that I love is called eat the frog. So basically, I don't know where the saying comes from, can't tell you that, I'm really sorry. But basically the whole thought process is whatever that is, that frog is for you, the bit that you look at and you just think, oh, I really don't want to do that, or that's going to take me so long, is just do it, get it done, get it out of the way. And that then allows you to move on to the rest of your tasks for the day. Whereas if you don't, you'll always have this little frog while you're doing every other task just in your ear going ribbit, ribbit, because you'll know that that task still needs to get done. So start your day, eat your frog, move on, happy days. The rest of the day is yours to do the thing, your pebbles and your sand if you want to. Okay. Have you ever heard of that one, Ted?
I have. I like Eat the Frog. I feel like it's a famous author who said it, and I can't remember who, so I'm going to go and Google it.
Google it while you're on here and let us know. But I always just think of this frog in my ear just going ribbit, ribbit if I don't do it, so I do try and eat the frog as much as I can. Okay, so do your number 1 most important task first. So as we said, this is often the most challenging task, but as soon as you've accomplished this, the pressure is off and you can get on with the rest of your day. So that's your Eat Your Frog. Write tomorrow's to-do list tonight. So this is one that I never used to do. It used to be the start of my day that I'd always write my to-do list, and I started writing it at night, and it made the next day so much easier. It helps to determine what time you'll need to set your alarm clock. So I'll know if all of a sudden I've got to make myself, I've got to be at my desk by 8 o'clock, because otherwise I'm not going to fit everything in. And it helps me plan my day in advance. Whereas before, I'm quite naturally an anxious person, I suppose, and I do overthink things. So it might have been that I knew that there was things going on, but I was in my head trying to work out how much I had to fit into the day, and just spent too much time doing that worrying, which, as we know, is sand, so is a waste of good time. So by just writing that list, it then meant that when I finished work, I closed my computer, I could kind of go home, enjoy my time with family, and then start the new day and already know what kind of the day ahead was going to hold for me. So that's something that I found really helpful. But again, it's very much personal choice. So break big tasks into smaller chunks. So some tasks that we've got, so some of those rocks can be quite overwhelming. And when you look at them, you just think, how am I meant to do this? How should I get through? So by breaking them into smaller, more manageable chunks, you can actually then start working on it bit by bit. And then you have that sense of achievement that helps you to actually continue to work through the rest of those small chunks to achieve that big task in the end. So that's always a really good tip. Bribe yourself with a reward. So not that I'm in for bribery, but allowing yourself some little extra treats or relaxing time whenever you finish a difficult task can work really well as an extra motivator. And it can be something as simple as, if you just head down, get on with what it is that you're trying to achieve, and as soon as you've achieved that task, you're going to allow yourself to go and get another cup of coffee or something like that, just to kind of break things up a little bit. Or right, okay, if I achieve this, and it might be DIY, it might be something like that you're right, okay, if I've achieved this, once I've done everything and it's all neat, tidy and finished, then I'm going to go to, to the garden centre and go and have cake. There's a common theme, coffee and cake, going on here, isn't there, really? So you can tell what I do at a weekend. But yeah, those little treats can work as great motivators for you as you go through. Bit drastic, but sell your Xbox or your PlayStation. So yeah, sounds a little bit harsh, but if you think about how much time you spend on your Xbox, your PlayStation, social media, Netflix, how much of that time is actually valuable? How much are we gaining from those? I think Ted probably knows my opinion on things like this, and I'm sure his differs slightly from conversations that we've had before. But what are you actually gaining from doing that? So rather than spending your time on social media, is it that you've got a friend that you've not seen face to face for a long time? Why don't you arrange to go and meet up with them? And why don't you go for coffee and cake, and that type of thing? But also, if you've got, if there's things that you want to do and things that you want to achieve, or it might be that you look around the house and you think, I really wanted to put the shelf up there, or that shelf's been wonky, or that picture's been wonky, even little things like that. How much more time would you have? Because I think we probably all agree that things like Xbox, PlayStation, social media would fall into the sand. How much more time would you have for those important rocks of spending time with family, friends, wellness, education? You could learn to speak a new language, so you can do that get an app for it, learn to speak a new language, so you're still having that kind of phone interaction, but you're actually gaining something through it. So yeah, maybe it's time to chuck them out, but again, we'll leave that one to personal preference. I'm not telling everyone.
Martin's called it for me on the chat. He said it's better to say don't buy the PS5 when it comes out, and I won't be. I think I've now reached the point in my life where I'm not going to buy the next games console that comes out. I'll just give it up. I think I've probably had enough of playing video games. And we did find out who it was that said eat the frog. It was Mark Twain.
Brilliant. Of course it was. Yeah. So
a really good point from Louis. Everything in moderation. So if it's an important part, if social media is a rock to you, then yeah, but in moderation.
Yeah, but just don't allow it to stop you having that kind of face-to-face important time as well that helps to build that wellness side. That's the only thing I'd say.
Oh, and a great point from Sandra in the chat, Chief, who said social media can be really good, especially during the COVID-19 crisis. Agreed. Zoom, Microsoft Teams, very useful for seeing family at the moment. Absolutely.
Yeah, 100%. And I think it's changed things, hasn't it, this last few months, really, where social media has really started to have a really positive effect. And don't get me wrong, there was positive sides of it before, but I think for families and seeing each other and being able to replicate that together time as much as possible, yeah, it's been a fantastic. But when I think of social media, I would probably think of how it's being used over these last few months would be supporting those rocks as that family time and that type of thing, more so than just kind of posting what you've eaten for your lunch and that type of thing.
I'm with you.
Okay, brilliant. So as we move on, so another tip is make sure you get plenty of exercise, fresh air and healthy food. So you can't perform if you're not well. A healthy mind often lives in a healthy body. And the more you can achieve more if you look after your health, and it simply makes you feel good about yourself. So I told you there was going to be lots of random kind of philosophies and theses in here. So one of my sayings is you need to treat your body like a car. So if you've got a car, you have to take it to the petrol station. You have to put either petrol or diesel into it. You have to make sure that you clean it. When the tyres get low, you need to change your tyres, your oil, that type of thing. So you have to maintain it. You also have to take it in for a yearly MOT to make sure that it's working to standard. And I think if you kind of take that on board to yourselves, then the petrol, the diesel is your food. You need to make sure that you do that. Make sure that you give yourself plenty of opportunity to focus on you and make sure that you're okay. So that's kind of like your car wash type moment. And that MOT, so just every now and then, just kind of sit back and go, right, okay, what am I doing? Where am I? Am I happy with this? Is this how I want to keep moving forward? And that exercise, fresh air, healthy food, it just makes sure that you're maintaining it. So that's kind of like your oil and your water side of things. So I think if we think about our bodies as a machine, as a car, and we actually treat it like that, we'd probably get an awful lot more from ourselves mentally and physically as we go through. But yeah, sorry, I did say there's going to be a lot of analogies thrown in there today. So
keep them coming.
Okay, cool. Set yourself reminders with your smartphone. So smartphones can be really helpful. You can set things on your calendar. You can set alarms. It's really easy to forget things during a busy day, busy week. And just making sure that those things that are really important, you use that technology and you use different things, or you can keep a hard copy diary. So I normally do both, and yeah, I love my hard diary. Everybody laughs at me, I think, at times, but I will go somewhere because I have so much going on that I need to make sure, and I have a different coloured pen and put different things in different colours, that just make sure that I know what's important and what I can and can't kind of work into that. So how many of those pebbles and sand can I work into the things that are really important rocks? So smartphone or hard diary, whichever works for you. When you're stuck, ask for help. So when you've got to do something for the first time, you might need help from someone who's already done it, which can save you an awful lot of time, because you might be spending so much time trying to either worrying about how you're doing it or trying to fathom it out yourself. But if you just ask for help, it will make it a lot quicker. And people normally love to help other people if they're asked in the right way. And it's one of those things that you can always return that back as well. So if you start a new job and you're asking for help, when you've been in that job for a couple of months and you've become quite comfortable with everything, and you see that new person start who looks like a rabbit caught in headlights, who reminds you of you a few months ago, be that person to go and offer to help, because it will probably really help them, and they'll feel that they've got a friendly person there as well. So, but don't be afraid to ask for help. Developing good routines and habits. So there are good routines and bad routines. So not all routines are good. Some help us get things done and some prevent us from getting things done. So any of those bad routines that you have, start new ones that will help it be positive, proactive. So try and just, again, when you're reevaluating things, think, right, that I've always done that. Just because you've always done it doesn't mean that there's not a better way of doing it. So sometimes it's about spending that initial time to kind of reevaluate what you're doing and how you're doing it to work things to make it better. Really important is allow time for fun and play. So we're here, we've got 1,440 seconds a day, and I think the average human life expectancy is 72 in the UK and Ireland now. So that's when you work it out, it's not actually that much. So just make sure that you enjoy your life, you have fun, you play, you encourage creativity, doing the things that you really enjoy doing with the people that you enjoy doing it with as well. So don't spend too much time with people who you don't really want to. If you don't want to spend time with them, then cut them out of your life, because it's not going to give you any benefit, and it's just going to be a bit of a, it might be, if you've been on one of the other webinars, what we call a mood drain. So it might kind of suck all of that feeling away from you that it takes so much to build yourself back out. So you want to be surrounded by rage. We got somebody off mute there, or is that you, Ted?
That's me. I'm off of mute. Yeah.
Okay, I can hear myself coming back. That's all.
Okay.
It's the worst sound ever. Okay, brilliant. So, to summarise kind of all of that we've just been through, in a very quick 3/4 of an hour of timekeeping, prioritising. So hopefully you've kind of come away with some examples of what you would class as the important, less important and unimportant things. And as we said, they're very much a case of personal. So they will be very personal to you. Some of them will be quite generic, but others will be personal. And thinking of all those techniques as well to help you prioritise what and how you're going to do things. So there is a little bit of a handout that I will get Ted to put onto Flow, if that's okay, that you'll be able to get through in your news articles, which is just kind of what we've gone through today of some of those techniques for prioritising. And like we say, some of them will work for you, some of them won't. And again, it's a very kind of personal way to put it in. Okay. Cool. So that is me, gang. That is timekeeping. So turn up for work on time or be early. But yeah, how to actually manage those 1,440 seconds. So if we think about kind of what that looks like, so we had the does it make the boat go faster? So if it doesn't make the boat go faster, if it doesn't suit your purpose, then is it worth your effort and spending your time on? Prioritising what's important, so really making sure that those rocks are the first and foremost of kind of your mind when you're putting your plans in place, and eating that frog. So, and look after your body like a car. So those are the 4 takeaways for today, guys. So I have babbled on for a good while now, so I'll put it to you guys. Any questions, any thoughts, any tips to share with the rest of the group?
There was some love coming through for the car technique when you're talking about that from Martin. It seemed popular. I like the car analogy as well. I also like the eat the frog thing, and the 1,440 minutes in each day. I just figured out how many minutes are left in my life, and it's not very many.
Yeah, don't do that. Times it by the 72 and take off what you've already done. That's really depressing.
Oh yeah, I divided by 6, so I've got 359,160 hours left. I was just like, oh my god, that's not a lot.
Yeah. So make sure you prioritise and make sure you work towards your goal.
Yeah, I think so.
Does it make the boat go faster, Ted?
Does it make the boat go faster? I've written that down indeed. I like all of them, Chief. I haven't seen any questions coming through just now, so I'm going to say thank you very much, Sharon. That was an absolutely awesome session, and I'm going to end the recording just there. For those listening in the future, jump onto the notice board on your Flow platform, and you will see a document attached there that is called Timekeeping Webinar Top Tips. So I'm going to end the recording just there. Boom.